Hey folks, we are going to get back into this. Let me check my signal here, make sure I'm sounding okay. Go through my quick intro spiel, and then we're going to get into some more artwork, and we're going to look at fleet mechanics real quick today, as requested by MedMe over on the Spelljammer Discord today. So give me a hot second to check my signal here and get through intro, and we'll get into this. So mic check, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, cool, that sounds good. I won't do any more of that. I promise you. I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter, so if you want to follow me in the future, you can always check in to see if I'm on Twitter at Phil Kearney. You can also support the channel with likes and subscribes. Hit the bell icon. It really helps the growth of the channel and getting noticed here on these art streams. So give me a second here to punch some signals here onto the Discord to let MedMe and other folks know that I'm up and running today, and then we'll get into it. So, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I publish on the DMsGuild. There's a link below to a number of different books I've already published that you're welcome to check out. There's probably about 150 different illustrations among those books, as well as unique mechanics using 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons for things like prestige classes, ability checks as ritual casting, color mana spell point variant rules, elemental spell points for like airbender avatar type fun, and other stuff in general. So this is what we're building right now is a, hold on, done, and okay, let's get after it. So what we're building right now is a book of mechanics for Spelljammer based on Spelljammer's Adventures in Space at Wizards of the Coast, published in August last year. This should be publishing at that anniversary in August, probably towards the end of next month. And so we've built out, we're finished with the layout format of this, and we've been in the process of building this cover back on episode 15. You can go check that out in this art stream. That is a separate channel on my YouTube channel, so like, subscribe to get notifications of updates to all the art streams, the Martial Power System, the Eberron Adventure, Crystals of Mabar for 8th level characters that we've been doing cartography on Mondays and Thursday nights. We maybe back around episode 60, something like that. We did a ton of ship tokens. We did all the vessels that, vessels, strike ships, and here's a Star Moth, for instance, as well as a bunch of fighter craft vessels. You can see here at the 5 foot scale, 5, 10, 15, up to 50 feet by 50 feet. This is an elven flitter. We also did things like a small jammer, a manta ray. We just did like an arrow, a goblin arrow, which is a little 15 by 15 foot fighter ship with a mounted weapon on it. And then so we're going to walk through the, these are 50 foot squares, so like a Star Moth is 200 feet long, so it's 4 by 4 at the 50 foot scale. So we're going to look at fleet mechanics and just keep it super simple up front for folks. So if we're looking at the 5 foot scale, obviously the Star Moth would be massive. It'd be what would that be? 40 squares, right, in size. So that's 200 feet, 5 feet a square. 40 feet, that's 3.5 feet worth of map on your table, like at home. You're not going to be doing any kind of ship-to-ship maneuvering at that scale, so you have to reduce the scaled ships. So generally how we do it on a ship-to-ship basis is we reduce down, if you're using vessels, like Star Moths and stuff, and I know this works for basically any system, but we codified all the mechanics for 5e because that's our jam. So the fighter craft that we've been building are at the 5 foot scale, so up to 50 foot. Like a flitter is as big as they get, while the arrow is only 15 by 15, right? So, but not all systems, certainly not core, like 2nd edition Spelljammer really leans into that fighter craft idea at all. It has them, but it doesn't really lean into any specific mechanics about it. So I'm going to keep it simple for demonstration purposes, but when you grab the book, you'll be able to see in the free preview the differences between craft and vessels. Vessels being ships larger than 50 feet, craft being ships up to 50 feet. And they can intermix together, but when they do, they default up to the vessel size. You're going to graduate upward in this instance, where when you're maneuvering and having ships move together in a coordinated fashion, like squadrons and fleets, it's always going to round up. So that way it's just easier to simplify things. So to keep things simple, let's look at how we organize a squadron or a fleet. In this instance, a squadron is a group of ships that operate inside of a single square. And in the instance of vessels, that's going to be a 500-foot square. I believe Dark Matter and I think Wild Jammer and maybe some other like Star Wars or other systems work at the 500-foot scale or larger even. But we've standardized it from 550, 500, 1,000, or 550, 500, 1 mile, 10 miles, 100 miles, 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 100,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles, 10 million miles, and then the maximum of 100 million miles, which is the maximum distance that a ship can move in a day. You can hex crawl with squares that are 100 million miles if you're doing 1 square per day, or you can break them down into smaller units to cover time as you please. So fleets are operating at the 500-foot scale. So if this is a 500-foot square, that means that each one of these squares inside is 50 feet. And we go back and look at our vessels, then we know that 50 feet here, that one Star Moth can fit in a 4x4 space. So if we shrink down this Star Moth down to token size, as we do, oops, wrong button. Let's try it this way. Yep, if we shrink this guy down to the 40-foot scale, so that he fits inside of, this is the token that you get when you purchase the supplement that we have, all the different ships that we have at scale as well as at larger scale, so that you can have interaction with them at the 5-foot scale with craft and the 50-foot scale for craft and ships. So here at the 50-foot scale, the Star Moth fits in a 40x40 space. So if we've got a 500-foot square here, obviously you can see that the Star Moth doesn't take up much space. So you can, I'm gonna grab my other pen. Here, copy, paste. You can fill this 500-foot square with multiple ships, right? But as you can see, it's difficult. Like this square here is filled. So it's only leaving this 2x2 gap, this little cross in between here. So if we're just looking at this would be like, say, like I could scoot this one in a square if I wanted to, or I could scoot this one in and this one in a square if I wanted to, but I don't have to. So what we're looking at is just basically capacity. So let me get back to being on capacity. Here we go. Okay, so you could fit up to 4 Star Moths in a single squadron. And then if we added on to that, you have all this gap in here, right? These Elven Flitters at the 50-foot scale, they would fit inside a single square. So we can drop this craft down to a single square, and you can for transfer, I just want to make it sure that it fits, since I'm resizing these things on the fly here. There we go. Copy, paste. Anywhere there's an open spot here, we can drop another flitter in. I could theoretically fill this entire space in a tight formation with just shitloads of little flitter ships that are flying among the larger vessels, right? Flavor those to taste. So this is how you can organize it. Anything that's sitting inside of this 500-foot footprint can be organized into a squadron of ships, vessels. In this instance, we're looking at vessels and craft together. But this whole unit is basically at the 500-foot scale. It's grab this and then grab this and put that all into its own little folder here. Footer okay? Footer okay. Cool. We can duplicate that layer, and then we can merge that layer there. So if we're looking at the 500-foot scale, we have a squadron here. We got the 4. If you wanted to shrink down the map, you could theoretically drop all these down into a single unit, and if you would then be able to take a like a 10-sided die and then put an indication of how much firepower each one of these has. So like if like let's say in this instance we're looking at a 10, right? So then you have this single die, this D10 that you can use to represent your fleet, a 10 score fleet, and we'll explain what 10 score means. So when we're looking at commanding, so when you're in this 500-foot square with your squadron, right, regardless of how it is that you're indicating what that squadron is, you'll keep the stats off to the side just like you would with your character icon in a dungeon. You don't have all your stats on your character, though. Like if you're using Roll20, you get 3 circles. Here you can keep track of your squadron strength. You can keep track of your hit point total, and what other variable you want, like say your AC. Those are 3 good stats to keep track of there. So explaining how these, so when you're doing ship combat, regardless of which system of ship combat that you're using, you'll be able to, at the 500-foot scale squares here, be able to 1, 2, 3. Like some systems have like a navigation thing where like for every 2 squares you move forward, you can like move over 1 square. Like that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. Our system's more fluid than that. Using the 5e mechanics, you're basically hovering, so you can turn and fly and move in any direction that you want. So like. And we standardize movement at 5 squares per movement. You get an object interaction, or when you're commanding a fleet, a verbal command to move the fleet once, as though you were moving a character at the 5-foot scale using the movement action, but you're not physically moving. So instead, you could move across the deck and shoot somebody, or hit them with a spell or something if you wanted to. But then you could also use the verbal command to command the fleet that you're in command of to move up to 5 squares, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At the 500-foot scale, there you go, 2,500 feet moved. If you wanted, and then with my system, you'd be able to use a action to dash, which would give you another 5 squares of movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. 4, 3, 4, 5. Like you can dash around like that. So there's like another enemy fleet here, and there's an enemy fleet here, and you want to engage with them. You could fire at them at long range if you have the weapons for it, but typically that's going to be at too far of a distance. You'll be at disadvantage at that range. At 1,000 feet typically, unless you're using trebuchets, 1,500 feet away is going to be at disadvantage on your attack because it's outside of your normal range. So I could pop, hit this one, and then I could float over here like this, and then pop, hit both of these if I wanted to, and they could of course attack me in kind. So if we don't have any other obstacles in space, it's basically just a giant black void. So distance is kind of relative in that it doesn't really matter if you're just in the void, but it comes in handy later. So just looking at the system here, so how do we calculate the size and the damage, like the damage capabilities and the attacking of the fleet, right? So if we're looking at we use command checks, which is a proficiency die out of the Dungeon Master's Guide variant rules. Instead of having a static proficiency bonus, you're rolling a +2 bonus at first level is a D4, D6 at 5, D8 at 9th, oops, I need to fix that. 5 to 9, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14 through 17, and then 17 through 20. Those are your ranks as a character to determine what kind of die you use for your proficiency bonus, and then the CR of creatures that correspond. Like if you have a Rakshasa, that's a commander of its own dark fleet, for instance. It would be like, I think it's a CR 11 creature. So I'm just pulling out of the air. A Rakshasa would be a 3rd rank creature. So its proficiency die would be a D8 instead of like say if your characters are 5th level in Light as Araxis, they're going to be using a D6. So you use a D6 plus your rank. is the basic modifier that you would use, as opposed to like say +3 proficiency bonus and like say a +2 to your strength for a total of +5 to attack with like say a sword. Using the system, you would have a D6 plus at 5th to 9th level, you'd have a D6 +2 to determine your attack bonus when you're commanding crews to fire a catapult. In that same system, that same mechanic is for your squadron. So while you're commanding your squadron here, you would use your verbal command to move the fleet. You could use your action to dash for the fleet to move again, or you could make an attack. And if you have multiple attacks, then you could have the fleet potentially attack multiple times based on what the reload score is for the fleet, or squadron. So the difference between a fleet and a squadron, just to resolve that quickly for you. Sorry if I'm a little scatterbrained, but this is just kind of on the fly. So it's also practice for me to explain it over and over again. So thanks for the patience. A squadron fits inside of one square. A fleet fits inside of multiple squadrons, multiple squares. So this is a fleet of 2 squadrons, or you can just keep adding them on. It's just that's 3 squadrons. So you have a fleet now of what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You now have a fleet of 12 Star Moths and like 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 18 flitters with you. So it can keep growing like that as long as you keep all the ships connected to each other in one way or another. As long as they are all adjacent to each other in that manner, they can. You can spread your fleet out in any way that you want, and they're still going to have that same general action economy of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. So you can keep moving as normal. It's just you're increasing your footprint, kind of like how a large or a huge size creature increases its footprint. So it's the same action economy. It's just your bigger footprint. So then you can use your attack to make multiple attacks if you want, and then there's bonus actions that you could, depending on what your character is and what role they're playing, they can do different things, which is covered in the ship roles section above. Here's the basic action economy that we use for pilot options, siege commander options, firing individual weapons on your ship, squadron commander options for when you're verbally commanding a whole squadron of ships to attack, and then there's support role options for helping the squadron, siege, and pilots operate more efficiently or recover from mishaps. So they don't have any attack actions unto themselves because they're just support. And then we break down here the pilot role, pilot checks, the command checks, the different actions that are on that chart that a pilot can take. And it's all using basically 5e dungeon combat mechanics that you already know as a character. Like readying actions, it's an action plus a readied action. Similar to creatures readying an action during combat at the 5-foot scale, you can ready a pilot action for a specified condition or event, which you can then use your reaction to complete. Actions that you can ready include ship's melee attacks, defend, hide, and move actions. So in the defend action that we have up here, for instance, is defend, which can be done as an action or a bonus action, but when you're readying it as a reaction, you have to use your action to ready, as 5e combat does. Pathfinder would work differently. Second edition works a little differently. But you gain the following benefits. You can increase the ship's armor class by an amount equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can roll with advantage when you take the deflect action down here as a reaction. And make dexterity or constitution saving throws for the ship because you're readying yourself for it, basically. And then deflect is a reaction, which is when the ship is hit by an attack. You can make a pilot check with a DC equal to the attack roll. Succeeding the check turns a hit into a miss, and a rogue pilot would be able to use their cunning action as a reaction to have any damage that the ship takes when it comes in as well. So it's fluid with the different action economy that characters already have. It's just that they become the ship and they move and act as though a ship. Like a barbarian pilot would be able to rage and gain and be able to use reckless attack to have enemy ships have advantage on attacking the ship that he's piloting, but he would have advantage on the ship attacks that he makes while he's piloting. So it's very fluid. It's meant to work very fluidly with the system, and it goes into all those details here in the system. But we now know what the proficiency bonus is. We know how movement works. We know how to organize the ships. Now let's go down into the squadron section specifically to look at how we resolve damage stacking, as well as reloading and hit point capacity. So there's a lot of specifics, like there's AoE effects, and there's spell targeting effects. There's doing damage, like when you're making a fleet attack or a squadron attack against a ship or another fleet. There's a lot of specific details about all that. As much depth and detail as 5e goes into dungeon combat, this document has taken those mechanics and replicated it and expanded them out to the 50, 500, and beyond scale. So, but we're actually almost done, because it really is simple, regardless of my rambling. I'm learning how to make a tight set out of this so I can speak it clearly when it actually publishes and walk you guys through this, so I can just talk you way through it. We use damage reduction, but you don't have to. Different systems don't. This is just the material that you use makes a difference, whether it's wood, stone, bone, iron. It has different types of materials, which gives the ships of craft vessels and combined ships different damage resistances. So, but that's not intrinsic to the system. So use whatever damage reduction or like mega damage or like fleet damage or whatever your system's using. You can retain that if you want to. I'm just showing you how our system stacks so that you can get a grok for it. So when your ships, you're not individually controlling like an individual person to man and fire a weapon for 50 ships and 70 guns, right? Instead, you have a crew on that ship, and that crew has a rank. And the rank of the crew is equal to, and we go back up here, we can, hold on, let's go down here to look at crews. A crew is, again, it's the CR of the creature that you're commanding, again, is the rank that creature is listed as, and that is the die type of damage that the fleet will perform. Hey, Hornetico, there was a request by MedMe over on the Spelljammer Discord about how, what are easy fleet mechanics. So I'm attempting to provide in brief fleet mechanics. I should actually have a 20-minute timer going. So if you could hire a crew, and these are details that you don't necessarily need. The default is whatever rank your character is the crew. So if your characters are second rank because they're 5th level, then your crew is going to be second rank. But you can this dives into a lot more specifics, like the number of battles that the crew has survived increases their renown, just like the renown score from the Dungeon Master's Guide variant rules or Ravnica. So the more battles that they are able to survive, the higher rank they automatically become. Like, it takes a lot of battles for you to become second rank, as opposed to like a creature with a higher CR is just automatically that rank, or your character gains rank as levels. But this is a way for a commoner to become exceptional over time and to charge you more money to be able to afford them per season. So these are costs per season. We also have a rank cost per season per crew member. If you want to pay per character or per creature instead of paying for lifestyle and then hiring the crew into the lifestyle. So you have those options there, but again, each system is going to be different. But in short, the rank when you're using each weapon, like a ballista does D4 times 10 damage, or a catapult does D6 times 10 damage, or like if you're using mega damage or something like that from an alternate system, or like I think Dark Matter simplifies the die roll like to D4 mega damage, for instance. Then a first rank crew or low level character is going to be doing D4 damage per weapon that you're attacking with. And when you build a squadron, when you have a squadron like this, it goes up to, it's the facing, it's the number of squares of facing that your team occupies, that your squadron occupies, that determines how many of those dice you throw. So if you, in this case, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4, regardless of the flitters. We have 4 star moths in here, which are 1, 2, 3, 4 each, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. If you only had 2 star moths in your squadron period, then it would be, again, ignoring the flitters. But here, let's see if we can ignore the flitters. Get rid of those real quick just to simplify the diagram. Bop, bop, there you go. And then get rid of this trash here. So we're looking at, if we had a squadron of just 2 star moths. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 squares total. So that would be at second rank, say a 5th level character or a normal star elf, like say from Light of Zaraxis as a second rank creature. So all of these star moths by default would be second rank ships, which means that in general you're going to be doing d6 damage. And since it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a total of 8. It would be 8d6 damage that you're dealing whenever you hit these ships. A ship has twice as many hit points as it has length. So if this is a 200 foot long star moth, it's 800 hit points. 400 hit points. If there's two star moths together, that's 800 hit points. If we start talking about if you had 3 star moths in your formation, then that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 squares. That exceeds 10 squares, so it's going to cap at 10d6 damage. It just gets a little ridiculous because you can't control, like you can pack so many more ships, and the size of the ships are different. You can pack so many ships into the 500 foot space that if you keep expanding the number of dice that you use just by the amount of squares of space that are occupied, like that'd be 100 d6 damage if I had each square of this fleet count. So we cap it at 10 because the whole system evolves in scales of 10. So a craft can at most do 10 dice worth of like a harpoon flinger, for instance, does a d8. So at a flitter like this that fills in a 50 foot square would at most do as a fighter craft, it would deal 10d4, which would be up to 40 damage. And as a harpoon flinger could do like 2d8 damage on its own, but you have multiple harpoon flingers on your ship, all firing is going to end up in the squadron formation accumulate into 5d8 dice, which translates into 10d4 dice, which is 40 damage one way or the other. So it's the mechanics flush there, but that's more detail than you actually need. So once you get to 10 squares, you stop counting dice. So if you're doing a tight formation like this with multiple ships inside of the square, it's not going to do more damage than just 3 flitters, or like 2 flitters and 2 star moths alone. But you continue to increase the amount of hit points that the ships have when you overstuff or build a tight formation inside of your squadron. So this would be 400, 800, 1200, 1600, and then each one of these has 100. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. This would have 2100 hit points as a squadron. And every time you attack with that squadron, you're doing 10d6 damage. So 2100, going to do an average of 10d6 times 10 damage, because of siege weapons. A ballista does d4 times 10 damage. A catapult does d6 times 10 damage. Well, if you're firing 10 of them at a time, it's going to be 10d6 because the rank of the squad is d6, 10 squares wide. You have a tight formation of 10 or more squares worth of ship. That's going to be 10d6 then times 10 because of the multiplier. So you could be doing up to 600 points of damage per attack if you roll a perfect roll with this squadron. But the squadron, if you're attacking another one, has 2100 hit points in this formation. So if you're doing an average roll on your 10d6 times 10 damage, or you could simplify it to a d6 times 100 if you want to get rid of the granular damage, if you want to just keep it chunky because of the large numbers that you're dealing with, it'd be d6 times 100 damage, on an average doing about 300 damage. This 2100 hit fleet could take on average about 7 hits of that capacity before it gets dropped. So the DM is going to want to think about what is the die rolls that the fleet is making and what's the rank of the crew. If it's a high rank crew dealing d10s and it's still only a 2100 hit point fleet, only 2100 hit points, but that d10, 10 times d10 is going to be up to 1000 damage. A 5th rank crew or a high level group is going to be able to knock out this fleet on average in 10d10 times 10 is 1000. It's going to be 4 hits instead of on average 7. So if you keep the amount of ships in your squadron low, it just reduces the amount of hit points that they have. So that is basically like 5e scaling with different creatures. Like an orc deals less damage than an ogre. So an orc, in comparison, might be, say, like a flitter ship, might be like the Star Moth and 3 flitter ships. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That'd be 7d6 times 10 damage, as opposed to an ogre would be doing 10d6 times 10 damage, and in this instance would have 21 hit points. So it's going to take a lot more damage to drop the ogre, and the ogre is doing more damage than the orc is doing. But your ships, in comparison, if this is your fleet for your team, there you go. So the damage when you scale up is absurd sometimes, but it's definitely fun to deal 800 plus damage. See, now that's the thing. So if the fleet has 21 hit points, right, and the simplest way to do it is you just distribute the damage across the ships however you please. So in this instance, if we dealt 300 damage, right, we could take to comment on to expand on your comment about scale, which is huge. If you've got 21 hit points and you just took 300, 2100, if these are direct attacks from like siege weapon fire, then you would choose out of that 300, you could I'm going to use a different color because I'm having a hard time seeing that. 300 hit points, each flitter has 100 each. You could X out 3 flitters, and you would still have the Star Moths, and in this tight formation, you would still have 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18. You'd still have 1,800, basically 1,800 hit points. So, right, it's twice the length of the ship, 200 times. Basically, it's 100 hit points per 50 feet is an easier. Each square. It's like this is a 4x4. That means 4. 1x1 means 1. A 5x5, like a hammerhead ship, is a 5x5. That's 500. It's not 5x5 equals 25 is 2,500 hit points. It's 5x5 is 500 hit points. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18. You have 1,800 hit points left at this point after the 300 hit point hit. Instead, you could have kept those flitters alive and instead knocked this Star Moth down from 400 hit points down to 100 hit points. And you could divide these up however you want. You could do like, say, 300 hit points. Could be like 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 50 here. That's your 300 hit points, and that's resolved. It gets tricky when you do things like fireballs or lightning bolts or large-scale effects, some like Mass Effect, Wildjammer, and our system in particular that we looked at about 15 episodes ago, dealing upscale damage. Like a fireball could hit all of these. If you upscale using an amplifier to deal a massive size spell, you'd be able to hit all of these ships inside of a fireball. And it, like, say, we don't upscale damage because that gets a little broken if you start targeting cities. But the things inside of that area effect, like say with a fireball dealing 8d6 on average, doing what, 30 points of damage. If that fireball could encompass this entire area, then all of the ships in here would take 30 points of damage because they're all inside of that area of effect, unless the commander were to make a dexterity saving throw for the ships and they succeeded that, then it could be less damage. So it'd be 15 damage, but that's when this damage reduction comes into effect. You would reduce the amount of damage that it takes first, like a fleet like this would have a damage resistance of 30. So a fireball going off and hitting this amount of ships would reduce the damage first, and then you would apply the damage to each of the ships. So like say the fireball say you upcast the fireball because there's a shitload of ships with like say a 5th level spell slot, right? So it's like doing, what is that? Is it 2 dice per level? So that'd be 6, no, it's 8. No, it's 8, 9, 10. There you go. It'd be 10d6, which would be an average of, what would that be? 5, 30, 35 damage. So if fireball pops off 5th level rank, it'd probably be doing 10 damage to each ship. For a third level upcast to a 5th level, 10 damage to all the ships. There you go. You can whittle them down slowly that way. I still think like Ace Combat style dogfight encounter would be sick if you get creative with the monsters enemies present. A lot of high level fiends have more than 200 hit point, often also have flight. Yes, they could absolutely do this, and we talk about that in the creature menagerie section here about ships that creatures that have natural flight that are unnatural, like demons, angels, elementals, dragons, space dragons, stuff like that, can upscale their movement to be able to fly among these ships at these higher scales of movement as well, because space is relative. The astral sea is a mind space, so you can move at these greater speeds by the speed of thought, or by the unnatural nature of your unusual nature. Sorry, the term is unusual. The unusual nature of those creatures. So yes, you can absolutely have demons, dragons, stuff like that interacting with these ships, and dragons would basically fill the same space as one of these craft. So a single dragon would fit a 50-foot square. So if you have 2 or 3 dragons attacking your ship, like say your 13th level characters, that is a decent fight. If you want to engage with a specific, you can't engage with a specific ship when you're firing into it. If I attack you with a squadron of ballista fire, for instance, dealing say 400 points of damage in this instance, I don't get to control which ships are targeted inside of that squadron, because I'm in control of that as a single unit. So I get to decide which of the ships are taking damage, unless of course there's an AoE, then they're all hit. So good luck with that. But they, you as the defender choose which ships are hit. You're sacrificing your flitter ships to take hits, for instance. But if it's a barrage of hits and this only had 30 hit points, then you got to do something else with the other 370 hit points. So you're going to distribute them, and so you're eventually going to start losing ships. It's basically how that works. But if I want to target, say, this ship specifically, then what I need to do is I need to take my own ship. Let's say duplicate layer. I need to take my own ship that's outside. Like if this is my ship and I'm attacking this squadron, I have to get inside of this space to be able to attack that ship. But my ship is too big, which is a great reason why you want to have a tight formation in a squadron to prevent other ships from being able to penetrate the formation. I would instead have to use I would have to have my ship, or my team, jump aboard a small craft, small enough capable of penetrating the enemy ship's defenses so I can hit the target. So that's going to have my ship then enter this space, and I can start attacking individual ships. But they're all going to be at an advantage of attacking me if I do that. So, because I'm inside their space. Or they can do all sorts of horrible things to me. But if they do, they have to do it at the 50-foot scale. So I can't just be attacked by all these. Well, I could theoretically be attacked by all these ships inside of this formation. But once I get inside the formation, you have to have clear line of sight to be able to attack me. So like this flitter ship is being blocked by this, so I can't be attacked by this ship because I have cover. But I could be attacked by this ship, I could be attacked by this ship, I could be attacked by this ship, and I could be attacked by this ship. So when you zoom in to penetrate a squadron to go on specific attack missions, I could flip in here, I can start pop, taking shots at this guy specifically, and if he gets destroyed, then I could use the rest of my movement to get out of that squadron and, say, return to my squadron. But if I try to leave that space, they'll get an attack of opportunity against me for leaving that area. I'm going to take a hell of a lot of damage. And a 10d6 damage on a single, that's a suicide mission. Getting out is worse. Once you're in, you have to be able to move and get out. So you have to take the disengage action so that you don't draw opportunity attacks when you leave the formation, so that you can go join your own formation and stay safe inside your squadron when they decide to return silo fire as you go back into your squadron. And you're back in your squadron. Now if they start targeting, you can't target you specifically, they have to attack your squadron, so you can start relegating damage to your Star Moth. So that's like the super core basics of it. Use whatever action economy that your system uses. Use whatever maneuvering and ship churn, whatever it is that you want to do. We make it super simple. Like these things are like actual like Star Wars TIE fighters and different more like Battlestar Galactica Valkyries, where you can go backwards, forwards, you can strafe sideways. as well as have like normal maneuverability. You can do all those things with this system. But that's just the quick mechanics of breaking down the squadrons, how you pack in formations, how you do the hit points for them, targeting with direct fire versus AoE, how you figure out how to make your attack rolls. Oh yeah, that's right. The last thing was the reload. So for every square worth, for every die of damage that you're doing, like in this instance, we're doing 10d6 damage on an attack roll, right? So the command die that you roll, your proficiency die that you roll as part of your attack, you measure that against the number of dice that you're throwing. So in this instance, we have a 10d6, which means our target number is a 10 when we roll our command die. And if we can't roll that target number, that means we can't make any more attacks with that fleet until we reload all the until all the ships can coordinate their attack again. You could, for instance, 10d6. That could be 1, 2, 3 ships. You then have to take 3 actions, 3 attack actions, and a bonus action or a react. You can use any reaction economy: attacks, bonus action, and reactions. You could use a reaction to to ready this ship. You could use a bonus action to ready this ship. You could use your second, like if you're 11th level, you'd have 3 attacks per round. You could fire a silo once for 10d6, and then bonus action, reaction, and then a third ship would be say an attack action, and now you'd have all of your 10 dice worth of d6s reloaded. You can now fire another silo for 10d6. So that 11th level character, a command, like say a fighter, that's the commander of your squadron, would be able to use all 3 of their attacks, their bonus action, and their reaction to be able to reset the fleet to be able to make another attack. If it was only an 8d6 squadron with 2 star moths, you'd do 8d6 damage. It would be 8 dice that need to be reset, and since each ship is 4 dice worth of ship, you'd only have to use like a reaction and an attack, leaving 1 attack. The 11th level character would have, the 11th level fighter would have 1 attack left over, or like a 5th level fighter, even with 2 attacks, would be able to attack once, use the other attack to reset this ship, and use a reaction to reset that other ship, and now the fleet is ready to go. Like you could use your bonus action. If you have the opportunity to, you could use your bonus action to make another attack again, because your action economy is super fluid in this system. Hey Diego, nice to meet you, man. I'm just talking about the ship mechanics for squadrons and how they work with our system, and how the super bare minimum of it can be used with other systems. So that's the quick skinny of it, and I'll go back up here again. You can look at the action economy table that we have for how this works. But anyone that's curious about this stuff, you can either ping me on Twitter at Phil Kearney, or if you know where I lurk on Discords, you can hit me up for more specifics. That's a super basic crash course on how that stuff works. And here's your different pilot action economies: verbal, object interaction, which is basically steering. There you go. But like siege commanders, they have a verbal action that they take command, and they don't have. That's right. The interaction is using the orrery sonar system that we have in here. But it's basically an object interaction. You get 1 for free per round, just like a character gets free movement once per round. And then if you want to move again, you have the dash action that you can take, which is elegantly called. Where is it? Attack, defend, disengage, ram, scuttle. I am surprised it's not listed here. Bonus action. No, wait. Move ship. There it is. That's right, because it's an action. It's not a bonus. Rogue has cunning action, and it can use its bonus action to move ship as well. So rogues are really great pilots. They have expertise, so they have all those bonuses to their piloting checks. They have the great action economy from the bonus action, allowing them to do more, and they have reactions to reduce damage that your ships are taking. Evasion works with rogues while they're your pilot. So there's really great advantages for every class to be the pilot of a ship. Barbarian with their rage, like we talked about before, and their resistance to damage can apply to the damage that the ship is taking. The fighter has their multiple attacks, so if they're piloting, they can make multiple siege weapon attacks with their the ram or like pincer claws and stuff like that. They can use those. A bard with bardic inspiration, of course, makes a fantastic support role. Yada yada yada. It's all in the book, and once it publishes, it'll be free for you to preview. You can check out all this stuff. But that's a quick breakdown of this mechanics. I've been rambling on for about 30 minutes about that. So that's mechanics. So we are done for now with talking about the ship fleets. If you have any specific questions, you're welcome to ask. So I'll leave this open. Here's our Star Moth, and here's the Shrike ship that we built. The weapons that we have, the tokens that we designed have more weapons on them than what Spelljammer's Adventures in Space presents, because these ships actually mean something. So a Star Moth occupies a 4x4 space, so it has 4 siege weapons worth of attacks, like 46 times 10 damage that this one Star Moth would do as part of a formation. So that means that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 siege weapons on the ship. If we're going to use, say, the squid ship's a fun design. Squid ships are 5x5 vessels. They're 250 feet long. So a 5x5, that means it has 5 dice worth of damage that deals as a squadron, which means it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 siege weapons, so it can deal 5 dice worth of damage. So we had to rebuild the floor plans, the deck plans for these ships to have enough weapons. Like, these are war vessels. Like the one in the Spelljammer's Adventures in Space with its like 2 siege weapons and that's it. That's like a merchant ship. You could have that little amount of weapons if you want, but these things are built for war. So we have more weapons on them, which means you need more crew. But that's okay. Your ship can float those guys as Marines. These smaller weapons, though, those are mounted weapons. See, siege weapons can't hit people because people are too small to attack. If you want to start killing off crew on siege weapons, you either have to destroy the siege weapon and hope that because the siege commander could the crew can use the ship for cover. So you actually have to destroy the weapons themselves if you want to eliminate the siege weapons. You can't just kill off the crew. But if you wanted to kill off the crew, you have to use mounted weapons, because those are small, like Descent into Avernus. They're small harpoon flingers. They only have 150 feet reach before they're at disadvantage with long-range attacks. So you want to have a mix of both siege weapons to knock out large targets, but you also want to have mounted weapons that are small scale, so that like this squid ship would be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'd be able to do 5d, say 5d6 worth of mounted weapon damage that you can attack. Say the command, like if there was a fighter on deck here, like your character's a 13th level fighter, for instance, he has like 115 hit points. You could splatter him pretty easy with a couple ballista bolts, but he's on the deck of your ship. He has cover. You can't attack him. So now you have to send in fighter craft specifically to try to assassinate that character specifically, which is why you'd want to have your ship go into enter the formation of the enemy fleet, so you can start targeting their commanders to throw their fleet into disarray. Like, this is a role-playing goal for your characters. Kill the commander of the fleet. Which ship is he on? He's on this ship, and he's commanding all of the squadron from that ship using his orrery sonar system and his Fargab to be able to relay commands among his crew. If I screw up, that's right. If I fail my command check, I have to do all those die. But if I do succeed the proficiency die roll, if this was like, say, only 3d6 damage instead of 10d6 damage, and on my d6 I rolled a 3 or above, all the weapons would automatically reset. Everyone still stays synchronized, and as long as I keep hitting my target die number with my proficiency die roll, I can keep making attacks. As soon as I screw up, I have to reset every ship that's attacking for it to be able to regain its to resync with the commander to be able to attack again. If I don't have enough action economy for all of the ships to get my 10 dice back up, I could just use, like, say, my bonus action to get this ship up and running again, and then I could use another attack just to do 4d6 times 10 worth of damage. So I can still take pop shots at like this little flitter ship that's flying away, even if that's the only ship that's organized to be able to fire. So that's the thought process behind that. There you go. Ask me anything. I'm getting better at describing every month or so. I go back in and I try to describe how these things are. I'm getting more efficient at explaining the gist of how the system works. So I'm pretty proud of that. But we're here to do some artwork, so let's get some art done before my day. Jeez, it's 7:15. So I got about 40 minutes worth of art I can do today. But again, Medme, this was over on the Discord, the Spelljammer Discord channel. Medme was asking for quick, easy fleet mechanics, and in about a half hour ish, we explained how you can take basically any system and drop them into that 500-foot square formation to be able to build out a squadron, and then if you have multiple, there you go. If you have multiple squadrons, it's like you're doing 20d6 of damage because you have two of these squadrons next to each other, right? If you had two of them, that would take you up to 20d6, which means you have 20 dice. That 20, your target number becomes 20, right? So now you have to make sure all the ships in both of those fleets are organized before you can use them again. You would have to, like, that's where your support character comes in handy. Your support character can just drop in their action economy into reload, 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 I'm done. And then that's what that character did that turn. Like, everyone can agree, we're going to use our bonus, except for you, pilot. All of us are going to use our bonus actions this round to reload ships, so that when our fighter comes back around in rotation, he has all his attacks ready to go. So you can use group initiative, or you can use individual initiative. You can use either one of them if you wish. If you want to use individual actions for flying the ship, casting a spell, firing weapons, and then you want to use a group action for everyone to cash in their bonus action at the same time, then your fighter mid-attack can make an attack roll. Everyone on the team spends their bonus action to reset, 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 and now your fighter still has 2 attacks left. Attack again, everyone's out of action. Well, let's all burn our actions, which is a bad idea, but you could. Everyone reset their actions, reset, 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 and now our fighter can take his 3rd action. I could potentially do 10d6 3 times around because we keep using as a team, we keep congregating our action economy to command that fleet together as either commander, pilot, or support roles. So it just keeps going further and further and further down the rabbit hole, because every time it's like, well, what if I want to do this thing? Well, what if I want to do this thing? Well, what if I want to do this thing? And like, there's like all these iterations and little nuanced pocket rules about like, what if I want to blank? We've covered a ton of those what if I want to blank questions. It's a total combat itself, like the squadron mechanics are like 8 pages. But the ship combat of maneuvering and zooming in and out of scale, so that you can take you from like the 500-foot scale to enter that squadron space at the 50-foot scale to attack that ship, to then drop onto deck at the 5-foot scale. This is basically what that looks like. 500-foot squares, 50-foot squares, and then we're all the way down here to the 5-foot square where this flitter can literally land on the deck of this ship and start attacking with its siege weapon, with its mounted weapons here on deck. Now, this is an old illustration, I have to update it. But like this mounted weapon, harpoon flinger that it has in the nose of its ship, I could literally land this craft on the deck here and start using that harpoon flinger to start shredding the individual crew members on this weapon. Or like if there's a siege commander that's on deck here barking commands, I can start attacking him directly by doing this flyby and pop, 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 take shots at him, because mounted weapons, these small scale individual weapons, can attack individual creatures on a ship because they're small weapons, as opposed to the siege weapons are too big. You have to attack. If you've got just some guy that's free floating out in space, then yeah, you can start taking shots at, it'll be at disadvantage, but you can start taking shots at him because there's nothing that he can hide behind. But when he's on deck of a ship, you've got the walls, you've got the wall here, you got these stairs, you got weapons themselves, there's rigging, all that stuff acts as shields for individual creatures to conceal their movement inside of the ship, so you can't attack them with a siege weapon. So, but aiming and coordinating crew makes it a disadvantage anyway. So anyway, that's the quickie, the quick of it, as it were. God damn it! I bumped that thing off. Equals no. So we're going to go into ship hazards here real quick, and we're going to do some artwork for ship hazards. So ship hazards is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. The first page is pretty chock full. It talks about a fire, noticing a fire. The size of the fire is measured in squares, and the DC to just notice it, passive noticing of a 5-foot fire somewhere on your ship. Like the cook has a grease fire in the kitchen and the rest of your crew doesn't know about it yet. Just picking up on that is going to be a DC 25. But as the fire gets bigger, like 10 by 10 squares or 15 by 15 feet fire or 20 by 20 fire, it gets easier and easier to notice, hey, there's something on fire. There's something on fire on the ship. I can smell it. So and here's examples of those, like a grease fire in the kitchen, or a dangerous flame such as a large campfire, multiple small fires ignited at once. Intense fire with significant chance of spread, equivalent to a bonfire. And then pervasive flames such as an entire hold filled with flammable cargo. So then we got, so additional sources of fire aboard a ship can include rolling a natural 1. When you're attempting cooking, if a ship is damaged by ranged weapons that deal fire damage, like you'll see when we get down into the light of Zaraxis, that spiderlings attacking your ship are using flaming harpoon flingers to hit your ship and start catching fire, and then they fly off to go find their mother night ship. So that while your team is dealing with fire, the night ship can come in and use it can start grappling your ship and then boarding you with Umber Hulks to start hypnotizing your weapon crew and pull them onto the night ship as slaves. So you start losing weapons and they start taking your crew. So you'll see fire mechanics show up in Light of Zaraxis conversion guide that we provide. And then the amount of damage, number of fires, like if a fireball hits your ship. We were talking about fireballs as a squadron hitting the entire squadron. If your ships are on fire, your team now has to put out those fires. Which, excuse me, I've just gotten over a cold. So spreading fire, as the ship or the pilot makes a Constitution saving throw to prevent the fire from spreading, and if the pilot prevents the fire from spreading, it grows in size, and it keeps growing in size, and it keeps growing in size, so it becomes a bigger and bigger problem. So the way that, and then you can put out the fire, right? So extinguishing flames on the next page. Here at the top of the page, I want to put an illustration in, and this, I guess, is me doing illustration work finally. But like you got like a 1x1 square, and then you got a 2x2 square, and you got a 3x3 fire, and you got a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'll actually build a chart on this. I just don't want to bore you with the details. A 4x4 fire. When that fire spreads, a 1 fire becomes a 2 fire. I could be using a square for this. Nice. Good choice, Phil. If this fire spreads, it becomes a 1x1. It grows in size. If this 2x2 fire spreads, it becomes it increases in size. The 3x3 can spread like this. The 4x4, when it increases in size, it adds like that. So these become additional threats that you have to deal with. So as it continues to grow in size, you have more and more area. Next round, if this is a put out, then you got more spaces that this thing occupies. You go like that, and we can go like that, and you can go like dot, 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 dot. And then if this fire were to spread again, it would then upgrade to a second rank fire like this. So fire keeps growing. We're still messing around with what's the best language to express that. And then you can ability checks to put out the fire. It could be a group task, and here's some of the fun things you could use ability checks and skills to make a check. The check that you're attempting to succeed at is the DC of the fire itself. Sorry, wrong one. The DC of the fire, it's a spread. A 4x4 requires a DC 25. So that's really difficult to break down. You're gonna have to break up that fire into smaller spots. So this is the DC that we have, and we go in here to look at the like you can stomp out a 5. Each ability check is affecting a fire. The result of the ability check or command roll indicates how many squares of fire are extinguished, as listed in the spread column of the table above. The result of less than 10, you take 5 points of damage. For example, a 6-level character, if the roll is 18, extinguishes fires for 2 squares. So let's go back here and take a look at this. 2 squares is a DC 15. 1 square is DC 10. 3 squares is DC 20. 4 squares, DC 25. So when you're making your ability checks, if you're a high level character, you roll really well, or like you're a rogue that's like an expert at putting out fires, then if you roll at 25, you can put out 4 squares with your single action. And the more characters you have working together to put out the fire, the faster you're going to extinguish it. If you don't, it starts dealing basically 5 fire damage per round. It's 2d6 damage, like a flask of oil is like 2d6 damage, and then it goes out. So this would be roughly 5 points of damage per 5 foot square. It's equivalent. So 1/3 space dealing 15 points of damage. And that will eventually stack up and burn down your ship. Once you deal half damage to your ship, like that Star Moth has 400 hit points. If you deal 200 hit points worth of fire, that's going to foul the air. If you deal 400 hit points, not only is the ship destroyed, but the air poison, the ship is also deadly air now. So that's the quick mechanics there. But the intent of this space up here is to show the spread of fire. So that's what we're going to use that space for. That's a pretty. It's a lot of the illustrations in this are going to end up being diagrams and like pointing at like ship icons. Like this is a mounted weapon. This is a siege weapon. There you go. Foul and deadly air. Blending air envelopes. This is talking about when you have 2 ships that bump into each other. How quickly do they change the quality? Because there's clean air, foul air, and deadly air. So depending on the size of the object that you're interacting with determines how quickly it takes for its air to change from one to the other. And it always defaults to the smallest ship, or the smallest object. Like that flitter craft that's only 50 feet in size. If it were to land on a squid ship, which is 250 feet in size, right, then it's going to be, that flitter is 50 feet or less. So if that flitter were to land on a deadly air of a squid ship, in one round it would become fouled air, and then 1 round later the flitter craft would also have deadly air. So you'd have 1 round to hit that ship and get the hell out before, and without having deadly air, it'd be poisoned. If there are 2 ships that are next to each other, like the same scale, like it's based on hit points. Like the squid ship has 500 hit points as opposed to your flitter only has 100. So that's a more accurate way of depicting it. But the size of the ship depends on how fast. So if you have 2 ships, like a wasp, which has like say 90 hit points, next to a squid ship that has 300 hit points right now, the squid ship has more hit points, even though they're the same scale. The squid ship has more hit points than the wasp. So the wasp will eventually, in 1 minute, go from clean air to, say, foul air. And then another minute from foul air to deadly air to match what the squid ship is at, because the squid ship is larger. If one ship, like if the wasp has clean air and the squid has foul air, they're close. They're not deadly to clean, so there's not that 2-point step. So instead of 1 minute, it would take 10 minutes for the wasp to end up having foul air, because the wasp has clean air, the squid has, the wasp has clean air, the squid has foul air. Because there's less difference in air quality between the 2 of them, it would take 10 minutes for that wasp to adopt a foul air quality. So you could get on there, have 10 minutes to explore that ship, and then get out. You'll see that in the Light of Xeraxis again when you look at the Nautiloid, that you can go, spoiler alerts, that you can go dungeon delve into a derelict ship, and it has, I think it has deadly air. So if you dock with it for too long and you float with it, it's eventually in 20 minutes, it would turn your space galleon's air deadly. After 10 minutes, it becomes foul. So either they're going to drop you off on that ship and get away from it and leave you there on your own and leave orbit with that, leave orbiting that derelict. They are at risk of poisoning their air if they stay there for you. So they're going to disembark and detach themselves from your ship. Meanwhile, pirates are closing in on them. So you've got basically 10 minutes before the pirates find you. Get off the ship. Fun stuff. It's just a deeper level of exploring how Light of Xeraxis could work. But we have this little pocket down here that we can do an illustration with. So creature envelopes. What would be a fun creature? What would be a fun thing to do with an air envelope here for a creature? Or we have blending air envelopes. Maybe we need to do an illustration about blending air envelopes. Yeah, we could do... get rid of that. Go back to here. That's not the one. That's the one. So we can go over here and like have like a galleon. Maybe in orbit with the derelict like this. Maybe that's not the right angle. This is super quick little squiggles. If you see any of my other art, you'll you'll see that this is just the ideation process that we're going through. Here. Just like wreck it. Maybe something like that. Maybe that's a decent idea. Or maybe we should do actually maybe a flitter ship would be more fun, or like a small craft like if it's air bubble, and then we could have like a galleon here. So much of the little spot art that we're doing in here is like foreshadowing of stuff that's in the Light of Xeraxis conversion in the appendix at the end of the book. Like by the time you get to it, it's like, oh yeah, I saw this. Air bubble around the ship here, which could be foul air. Here, and then like let's undo that real quick. Hold on. I kind of like this idea. There. I love having the air bubbles around the ships because it helps define their... This should be inside that air bubble. Have like the whole underbelly of the deck here on fire. Burn, bitch. It's filling up the air with smoke down here. It's starting to come up around the edges. I think that's a I think that's a fun idea. I think that's a great idea for smoke down here. That's freaking perfect. That is the perfect illustration of smoke just swelling up around the ship here with fire poking out, because that's what they would do. These Neogi would fire at the bottom of the ship because no one hangs out on the bottom of the ship. So if you catch the bottom of the ship on fire, your crew has to take time to go from the top deck, bounce around, and jump down to the bottom side of the deck and start putting out the fire down there, while the Neogi up top are able to start firing at whatever siege crew are left on the deck top to take out the siege weapons for when the actual Night Spider shows up here in the distance. As it starts to close in with its weapon rack system. Here and here and here and here, and it's got sails, it's massive sails here. So that thing can cruise in. In the background, let's make it really, really small in the background. And we'll have another small craft here. And these things fit inside bubbles like that too. So anyway, that's the thought process behind there. I think that'll be a fun little sketch. Yeah. And then let's go to the next page. So here we have a small spot illustration available. Also, I'm not necessarily happy about, blending air envelopes, creature envelopes. I kind of like how faint that is. I think I'm okay with that because this is the background that we blended in. Here, let's get rid of that. Here's how the page sits, right? So here's the background texture color, like super faint color. Like it has a little bit of a color signature here and here. Where are we at? 735? We're doing great. But that gets in the way of it only messes with it a little bit. I think I'm okay with that. Yeah. Stitch that shut. Let's go here. So what are we looking at? Foul air and deadly air. Blending air envelopes. What do we want to put down over here? Creature envelopes. We could do give me a break. Ooh. Hold on. LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking. It's a dangerous pastime, I know. Creatures. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Where are you? Give me your tokens. Tokens, weapons, combat, equipment, equip, combat, exploration, hazards, creature tokens. Let's go grab the... Here's the Lunar Dragon token that we made. It's squarish. We'll actually have an actual grid. I'm just sussing this thing out real quick. Why am I lost? Oh, it's because of that. Thank you. This is here. No, I shouldn't care so much about how specifically filling the space. Yeah, that's pretty fun. And oh, I don't know, what's another fun thing we could do? Yeah. Boop. Dory. Nah. Oops. Wrong one. There we go. Maybe we'll just do, I don't know, maybe we'll just do individual squares, right? One, two, we'll find the right color. There's a blue that we use to represent clean air, so we'll get into that. Yeah, this is talking about creature envelopes. Creatures will have air envelopes that fill the space they occupy. A small and medium creature has an air envelope that fills a 5-foot space that occupies, while a large creature has an air envelope that fills. That should be a 10-foot space. God, these typos, man. This is why we get paid the big bucks. No, let's go fix that. I don't know why that changed. Anyway. We read through these pages over and over again while we're doing illustrations to find flaws so that we can fix our stupid shit, and we do it in front of everybody because, full discretion, editing is endless. And that was a mistake that I probably made when I was updating the language to try to simplify it. Believe it or not. My editor would slap my hand for doing that. Grappling, packing fleets, that's maintaining crews. Oh geez, I gotta get through spell casting, and I gotta get through all the exploration shit. Neat. Hazards, here we go. Found deadly air, creature envelopes, thank you. Save button. Creatures that breathe deplete their own air supply from fresh to foul after 1 minute, and from foul to deadly after another minute. Creatures that don't breathe can provide air for other creatures as described above, but instead of 100 days, the air is depleted after 10 days. Plant and creatures can exchange and sustain fresh air together. One medium or small creature can be sustained for each 50-foot space occupied by plants. For example, a 200-foot asteroid covered in vegetation can sustain fresh air for up to 4 medium creatures indefinitely. I could just do like an asteroid picture instead. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know if anyone's even here. If anyone is, I think I'm the only one watching right now. But I don't know. If leave in the comments below if you've gotten this far. God bless you, and thank you so much for being a part of this. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. But I could do diagrams like this, like I'm showing. Hey, Hornetico here. Great. Asteroid could be cool. Is it better than this diagram, or should I like do a mix between the two maybe? Because what I could do. Because that's the debate. Diagrams for visual simplicity to help the mechanics, or visual aesthetics. Because if I had an asteroid covered with plants, I would want to do something like this, and have like an asteroid like that. Have like a forest here. What do you think? That's right. You don't. You must have a. I bet you have an ad blocker, don't you? I want to see if I'm right. Is that true? Because YouTube doesn't acknowledge that you're here. I mean, obviously, either it doesn't acknowledge that I'm here and it recognizes you, or it recognizes me without an ad blocker and it does not recognize you with one. Personally, I'm a sucker for visual aesthetics. Fair enough. Fair enough. Huh? Me neither. That's weird. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, we'll let's do an asteroid then, since we strive to play to our audience, right? We can have a. Here's our 2 by 2 at the 50-foot scale. Would be like that. I'm just trying to make sure that I have trees and foliage proper. I just want to make sure that I'm not if I have too many trees here with too much growth, then the scale of the asteroid will seem different. As opposed to a 50-foot space, I could have like a few trees like this. Oops, shit. Okay, still got 10 minutes. Drop that down to 10 so I can stay on time. I'll be back again tomorrow morning to do more of this stuff. So the day's a day. I just went and checked, and it does appear my browser has. There you go. That's why you don't show. That makes perfect sense to me. Cool. No harm, no hate. I'm just happy you're here, man. But it also means why I can't ever freaking see if you're around or not. But we could do like a little. Like this would be effectively a 50-foot height. I don't know. Do we want to do deciduous or do we want to do happy pine trees? I kind of like evergreens. I kind of like the idea of evergreens. In space, I think evergreens makes more sense, huh? A little yurt. This could be a super fun little Bob Ross painting, actually. Actually, kind of looking forward to that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this one's better. Pine trees do look good on Floating Island, and asteroids aren't that different from those. Yeah, oh yeah, you're right, because of the rocky, high altitude. Oh my god, that's such a great idea. You are so right, my man. You're so right. I can basically free transform, flip this, and then build a happy little mound over here. So I can have two terrains. I can have the top side terrain, and then I can have the bottom side terrain. I can do both landscapes. How fucking fun is that? I love this. All right, that's a cool. Yeah, we'll keep that. That's infinitely more creative than you're right. Aesthetics sell flavor. Flavor sells the campaign. This is the way. This is the way. That, so we have that resolved, and then what we got going on in here? Infestations. Whoa, man. Almost out of time, so let's see what sort of infestation do we want? Moles and spores, insects, rodents, non-hostile oozes. Infestation severity, roll or choose the severity of infestations to determine the group check DC. Minor pests found in ship cargo hold. Oh yeah, I'm definitely listening, man. Prevalent pests found in the ship cargo hold and gallery. Serious pest populations in the ship cargo hold, galley, and crew cabins. Overwhelming pest presence evident throughout the ship. Colorful. You're right. Oh man, like the deck of a ship. Oh, that's fucking cool. Like the spores and mold, mold and spores, and then so let's brag about ability checks real quick. Characters can roll any ability checks in the group task when contributing to purging the infestation. Below are a few examples of unusual ability and skill combinations to fight the infestation. Strength investigation, removing everything from the infested area. I mean, that sounds stupid simple, but someone has to do it, right? And you can contribute an ability check to something mundane like that. Dexterity deception, set clever traps to capture any pests aboard, like if it was like rats or insects, for instance. Constitution perception, patrol vigilantly, searching room by room for any signs of infestation, which you can get lazy at after a while. That's kind of a concentration check. But you're using your perception skill instead of concentration. Intelligence history, know common bait and repellent for infested creatures. Wisdom nature, predict the behavior of the pests infesting the ship. Charisma medicine, coordinate cleaning crews to scrub the infested. Like, these are just silly little combinations, but I fucking love them. But like evil moss. And the number of successes determines the results of the group chat. So successes, 3 or more successes among the crew, the infestation ends and the crew builds camaraderie, gaining a +2 bonus to command die rolls for a number of days equal to the number of success rolls. 2, the infestation ends. 2 successes, you get rid of the infestation. 1, an additional day. As a group task, each character can make an ability check or a command check to coordinate any crew present, comparing the results to the listed DCs on the infestation severity table above. Characters can roll an ability check. Below are a few examples when contributing to purging the infestation. There you go. Space barnacles, jammer leeches, rodents, and bug infestations threaten food stores and the lifestyle of a vessel. Once discovered, a group task is required to end the infestation, taking a number of days equal to the size of the ship. For example, a damselfly ship occupying a 2x2 space requires 2 days to complete the task. Well, wasn't that just self-evident? Obviously, we now need to do a damselfly ship and infest it with horrible stuff. So that becomes our task. So damselfly. I don't know. We can cover it in mushrooms. How about that? Oh! And its air envelope. We can have like little mollusk and spores, just spores floating in the circle. That's a highlight circle, not an actual circle. Yeah, not in a good way. I think that's gonna be. Oh man, we can have the wings. Can like have like yes, like the wings can have all sorts of pollen, like just collected and stuck to it. Oh, that's fucking cool. Maybe we can have like a beehive asteroid here in space. Nah, that's probably too much. I don't think that would be inferred well, but I think this is a great idea. Thank you, Hornetico. That is fun. Rough sketch. That's the point right now, right? Uh-oh. Big area. Morale and mutiny. Hey, look at that. We're out of time. I'm such a cheater. This last page, though, there's barely any, if I were to add the frames back in, there's barely any space down here. So I would just leave that as open ice space just to rest. But for the mutiny, honestly, I'm thinking about a scene from Light of Xeraxis where Travis and his goons try to overthrow the Moondancer, the ship that your team starts on when you rescue a whole bunch of people to try to take in the Rock of Brawl from the planet being destroyed. Perfect timing. I think that might be a decent idea for an image. Mutiny. When a ship crew mutinies, they refuse to follow any orders and make one or more demands, such as the following. The crew demands the characters take the crew to a community. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Fireworks and stuff kept waking me up. I'm too light of a sleeper. They disembark and refuse to adventure with the characters for these 4 seasons. The crew demands a payment of gold or treasure. The crew demands the characters perform one or more tasks, such as resurrecting any lost crew. If the characters refuse, the crew might attempt to fight to take control of the ship for themselves. If the ship is attacked or faces any hazards before reaching port during a mutiny, the crew follows commands until the threat ends. The characters can then attempt another group check to improve morale, rolled with disadvantage. If successful, the crew restores morale. If the check fails, the crew might make additional demands or attempt to fight to take control of the ship for themselves. Ability checks to restore team morale, strength medicine, lead crew exercises to burn off extra stress. Dexterity persuasion, compete in darts, shuffleboard, other ship deck games to event competition and build camaraderie. Constitution intimidation, breath holding, staring contests, and other endurance competitions to alleviate the boredom of wild space. Intelligence acrobats, sharing puzzles, riddles, and other mental challenges to promote problem solving during a crisis. Wisdom, cook's utensils. Everything seems better after a good meal. And then charisma insight, identify personality conflicts among crew members and invite them to air their frustrations. The number of successes determine the results of the group check. 3 successes or more, the crew builds camaraderie, gaining a +2 bonus to command die rolls for the next 24 hours. 2 successes, the crew morale holds. Success, only one success, the crew rank is reduced by 1 for the next 24 hours. If the crew is already performing at first rank, the crew mutinies. So you could have a 5th rank crew eventually whittle its way down through incompetence down to only performing as though they were a 1st rank crew. And then they just outright attack you, and then, or, you know, like demand things, and then that's what a mutiny does. So that's super simple morale and mutiny. When the lifestyle aboard a ship degrades, when we have lifestyles above, and crew are lost, such as during a combat or in a fire, a group task is required to maintain morale, taking a number of hours. Taking a number of hours equal to the number of characters participating in the group check. There you go. And if you only have one character that's trying to hold morale for an entire crew, they'll stick around, but they're grumbling about it. So you can't dig yourself out of a hole unless you have more than one person on board with you helping you maintain morale. So you can't do it all alone. All you're doing is you're just fighting a battle of attrition in that sense. You got to either keep ship shape, or you're eventually going to lose your crew. So anyway, that's all the time I have for today. But I'm thinking we need to put in a number of results. I could move this. I might actually want to move. Here, we'll do this. I might actually want to move this text down here. Oof, almost perfect. Ah, that's the one. Damn. Real quick, then I gotta go. This one. It line up roughly like that, and that would give us our page down here to be able to have somebody barking commands here, and then people here with weapons, people back here shouting, "I'm angry about my life. Why did I decide to come along on this ship with you people? This is horrible. Head and hands, so sad. So sad. I just want to cry. We all just want to cry." A little empty beer cup here. So sad. No more booze. Arrgh. And like your character's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Everything's a-okay here. Hey, come along, guys. Let's be friends. I can have my bard play his guitar. Something like that, maybe. And you're on the crew on the deck of the ship. Maybe something like that. And then the last page won't have any. So we got one illustration. Oh, we can lock this page since we don't need to change it, and we don't need to change this page, so we can lock this one as well. So we got illustration here, we got illustration here, we got an illustration here, we got an illustration here. 1, 2, 3, 4 illustrations for this chapter. So there you go. So that's the quick skinning. We're just doing quick sketches throughout the book right now. Once we hit all the pages with the sketches and have a rough idea of what we're doing, we can then go back in and do all the clean line art to make everything look the same. And so we'll just flow through the document page by page to be able to make it all feel the same as we flow through. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks a lot, Hornetico, for hanging out with me, man, as always. And anyone else that's lurking around, thanks a lot for showing up. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications tomorrow morning when I'm back again, as well as follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney so that you can get notifications that I've gone live again. I'll be live tomorrow night as well to do more cartography, and I'll be back on Friday morning to do more ship sketching. And then Saturday morning, we'll spend a good 2-hour block, maybe 2 hours-ish, working on the Reclamant book cover. We've completed Yggdrasil and the sky. We're now going to be working on the mountains and pastures and glades, Bob Ross style. So we're getting into a true Bob Ross painting on the Reclamant cover at this point. So hope to see you guys there. We'll have some happy mountains with happy little snowdrifts, and we'll get into it. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.